Welcome back to the Real Estate Agent Advantage. Today's episode is a good one. We've got Dan Wood. Danny Wood is a real estate coach. He was a real estate agent and has moved out of production into coaching. And Danny Wood, his superpower is really that he is a tinkerer. He likes to get down and dirty into systems and techniques and ways of doing things more efficiently, really understanding technology, generating leads, follow-up systems, even in your CRM and your database. So if you don't know Danny Wood, he's got a channel, but he's going to talk about his story and drop some bombs for us coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Agent Advantage. My name is Lauren Cooper. I'm just north of Toronto, Canada. If you're thinking of sending any referrals my way, that would be greatly appreciated, but that's not what this is about. I just got to remember to plug myself every now and then in these things, which I am terrible at. So I'm going to do that now. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Today, we have an amazing guest who happens to be a longtime friend of mine. We've known each other for a while now, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right, man. How you
Yeah.
doing?
I'm doing great. So, Danny Wood, Dan, please say hi to everybody out here. Just sort of introduce yourself real quick and talk about something really cool that happened recently with some social media tinkering that you were doing.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, I'll share a story with everybody right away that should provide value, and it's how I gained traction organically on a social media post. So 2 weeks ago, I posted on Facebook, and I didn't use video, and I didn't use a picture. It was just plain text, nothing else. And then, so it was to promote a webinar, but if I was in the real estate space, maybe it would have been to promote an event like a buyer seminar, seller seminar, that sort of thing. But anyways, for me, I coach real estate agents. So my framing of what I posted was about a webinar for real estate agents. Now, the crazy thing is I didn't put the date and time of the webinar, and I didn't put a link of like, hey, the webinar is next Thursday at 2 o'clock. Here's the link, register here. If I had done it that way, I maybe would have got 20 people signed up. And that would have been a stretch, like probably more like 10 people signed up, right? Well, when I did the post, I didn't put the link, I didn't put the date and time. I just said, hey, who would be interested? Comment below. And so Facebook has like a weird, I don't know the exact number, but I feel like it's a 2 day shelf life. If you post something, you'll get comments and engagement for about 2 days and then it dries up, right? So I ended up getting the first day, I don't know, let's say it was like 100 comments or something, which was good. I didn't acknowledge any of them. I didn't like, I didn't reply or anything. I waited for the 48-hour window to pass, and then I went back and I liked the comment and I tagged their name. So if you commented, I'd be like, awesome, Lauren. Okay, buddy, I'm going to send you a message right now. But by me tagging your name, it brings it back to life to everybody that's connected between me and you. So then that following day, I got another couple hundred. And then I just kept doing that where I would delay responding and acknowledging people by a couple days. And then I would rack up another couple hundred. Over the course of a week, I got it up to 1,100 comments. So 1,100 people, no, I'm sorry, it's not 1,100 people. There's 1,100 comments. So that means like 550 people commented and then I replied because my reply counts as a
Right.
comment. So I had 550 people, roughly, I don't know the exact number, actually come out of the woodwork and say that they wanted to participate. And if I had to put the date and time, a lot of those people would have used that as a reason to not even raise their hand and acknowledge their interest, let alone register. So then the next step was, how do I communicate with everybody? Because I have to build a list, right? So I created a landing page with a link, and then I sent that to 100 people. The first 100 people I replied to, I sent them all a link and said, awesome, okay, here you go, just register. It's absolutely free. And of the 100 links that I sent, 50 people registered. So I got 50%. Well, the next day, I didn't send 100 links, I sent 100 voice messages. So the second day, instead of sending them a link, because I didn't like 50%, I wanted more than 50%. So I sent a voice message to
Getting
each
greedy,
person.
huh?
It took me on average about a minute per voice message. And I got 90% the following day. So day one, I sent out 100 links and got 50. Day two, I sent 100 voice messages and got 90. And by me saying the voice message, all I said in the voice message was like, awesome. Okay. If you want to join, just type out your name, your cell, your email right here. I'll see that you did it. I'll come back, copy, paste, and confirm I added you. All I was doing was copying and pasting their name, phone number, and email into the landing page that I was going to send them anyways. But because it's like homework, it's like a chore. It's like, oh, I got to click a link, and then they have to let the page load up, and it's like first name, type it, last name, type it. It's so much easier for them just to respond in Messenger, name, phone number, email. So that was a really cool hack. I've done that before many times where I don't post the webinar date and time specifically. And I'll even include a call to action at the end that says you can register just to get a copy of the recording. And that's like a good safety net. I always add that as like the PS down at the bottom. And yeah, to get 1,100 comments in on one post was a
That's
really
good
good
traction.
initiative. Yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
That's sort of like in the real estate world, posting a listing that you've got for sale with just a picture of the house. It's a house for sale, and then people get really angry. Why don't you list the price? So
Yeah, there's two camps to that. I totally get it. Um, we used a strategy kind of similar. We would work multiple cities. Durham region, Oshawa, Whitby, Pickering, and Ajax is where I would sell real estate when I sold real estate, and we would advertise Oshawa listings in the Whitby newspaper because Oshawa had a lower price point, and we would advertise Whitby listings in the Pickering newspaper because people that are going to buy a home in Whitby, there's a chance that they're still going to buy a home in Oshawa, especially when they see that it's priced less than what the average price is in their current city. So in that case, I do include the price. But when I run Facebook ads, I don't include the price. Um, I don't know. I totally get why people would be in both sides, and
yeah,
I see value at different times for both camps for sure.
bottom line is, what is our job? To make the public happy? No, it's to make our client happy and create engagement and interest in their property. So I mean, that's why we do it at the end of the day, right? But
Yeah,
we're jumping ahead, so let's take it all the way back to when you were in real estate, and then we'll catch up to what you're doing today, and the amazing value that you offer to other realtors in the space. So what year did you get into real estate?
2007.
Okay, I knew it was like 4 or 5 years before me because I was 2012. But
Right.
let's go slightly before that. What were you doing before real estate? What got you into real estate, and what was the start in the business like for you? Now, Danny, before we get into this, I mean, he's a tinkerer. He likes to figure stuff out and get in there and sort of get elbow deep in in these cool little things and some great ideas. And we're going to get into all that. But what were you doing before you got into the real estate space, and what made you even think about real?
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to get into commercial real estate. I thought I was going to help people buy and sell businesses, and then I called all of the commercial brokerages, and basically got laughed out the door because I was so young, man. Like 2000, I look young now. In 2007, I looked 12, dude. I don't know how anybody was ever doing business with me.
You were 12
None
in
of my friends,
2007, right?
none of my friends and family were buying real estate with me. I had to do it all through cold business. Um, so anyways, yeah, the commercial thing, I thought that's what I was going to do, but people weren't accepting of that. So then I said, okay, fine, I'll do residential. It's easier. And I'm kind of glad I did because the residential thing really blew up for me and I enjoyed it. So it was a lot of fun. Before I did that though, I worked construction. 16 hours a day was minimum. That was the start. Sometimes it was 24 hours, which isn't even legal, but I did it. And I was actually allowed to listen to earpods while working. So all I listened to for 2 years, 16 hours a day, was real estate podcasts, real estate coaching, real estate scripts, dialogue. I brainwashed myself with the real estate industry before I even stepped foot into the game. So for two
Why?
years, well, I knew I was going to become a realtor.
But why? How? Why? What drew you to
Oh,
it?
oh yeah, okay. So I went to school for marketing, and I just knew like commission based business, real estate. It was just to me seemed like the easiest way to make money. Basically, that was it. It just seemed
All
like the
right.
logical step for me.
And then
And
commercial, but commercial didn't work out, so that led you down the path of residential.
residential, yeah. But before I even found out that the commercial thing wasn't going to work, I was still brainwashing myself with the Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Richard Robbins, Brian Buffini. Like if you could name an audio that they had at that time, I listened to it. Like for 16 hours a day, I didn't listen to music. All I listened to was scripting, dialogue, sales tactics, like everything that these guys had to say. So I literally hit the ground running week one when I
Obsessed.
got
I
into
love
the
it.
business.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you hit the ground running, what was that like? What was your first year like? What was the experience? Was it what you expected it to be?
Oh, I'm fortunate that I never have expectations. So I never had an expectation. But anyways, yeah, no, it worked out. 2026 ends or something like that the first year. And the very first month, I almost got fired because I come in on the first of the month. I'm so excited, I'm like boom, 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 and I line up the whole front counter with files. And the front desk secretary is like, "Oh, what's this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's all the deals I did. First of the month, payday." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what." And I handed in six transactions that I never gave to anybody. I didn't do anything right. I did six deals and never handed in the paperwork because why am I out here winging it? Like I don't understand how I can go work at McDonald's and they'll teach me for 2 weeks how not to burn the fries. But I get into real estate and they're like, "There's your desk, there's the phone book. Ask if you got questions." I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? I got so many questions. Why am I just allowed to like wing it? What do you guys?" So anyways, they wanted to fire me, but they were also pretty impressed that I was able to crank out six deals, and so they didn't fire me, thankfully. And we worked all that out, and then I realized paperwork is not my strength. All I should be doing is marketing. So I
Yeah.
decided that at the time I'm only going to wear one hat, and that's to make it rain. And then I just do referrals to other agents, so I never have to touch a piece of paperwork again. And so I made that happen after like the first, well, I'd say 2 months. I started like just doing referrals to other agents, and all I did was lead generate. So I would like be the first in the office, last to leave. Like I prided myself on the grind. It wasn't a grind because to me it was like playing. So every day it was like I was playing in the sandbox of like, how can I create conversation based around real estate? And I would grab a scrap piece of paper. I don't have one. I would grab a scrap piece. This is a Kleenex. I would grab a scrap piece of paper out of the recycling bin, and I would draw a tic-tac-toe grid. And then I made a rule that I could not physically leave the office until I've had 12 conversations about real estate with 12 people, unless it's after 9 o'clock. Then I obviously didn't bug people after that time. But it was a game where I gamified the day, and every day I had 12, 12, 12, 12. And did I hit it every day? No. Some days was six, some days was three, other days was 15. You know what I mean? But it was usually on the higher end of like 8 to 12, I was actually doing. And I mean, if you have that many conversations with that many people, it's bound to happen. Like, it doesn't matter how young you look. They don't care. They didn't care how young I looked. And in fact, I would position it as a strength at that time of how ambitious and creative and everything that we had going on at the time. So the age to me wasn't really a factor at all.
Well, I find there are a
And
lot of younger people getting into the business these days, and
yeah,
it's great. But again, they're running up against that same wall or that same inner fear anyway. So what you're saying, I think, will really resonate with them.
oh, dude, I did everything from anytime a real estate agent at our brokerage got a brand new listing, I would call them up and say, "Hey, I'm the new guy on the block. I'll do an open house for you." And everybody was like, "Sure." But I specifically really only did it for the vacant listings. And then I ran the open house on a Thursday night and a Friday night the week that it got listed because I wanted all the neighbors to come and check it out. And the reason I wanted it to be vacant is because I basically use that as my office. So instead of having an office, I used other people's listings as offices because then I got walk through traffic while I was still doing my prospecting. So
Hmm.
if nobody was in the open house, I wasn't sitting on Twitter. I wasn't looking at my phone, just playing around. I was prospecting. Like if I'm going to sit in somebody else's space for 2 hours and set up open house signs, I'm going to work that. And if I did do an open house, I didn't just show up the day of. I at the time I was doing prospecting on the phone around the neighborhood, direct mail. I would go and deliver flyers, like 100 flyers, just prospecting any way that I could. Um, Yeah,
A lot of
it
circle
was a game.
prospecting, that type of thing, or inviting people to an open house if you had the open house office.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Excellent. I love
And events, I really saw value in running events because it gave me something to promote. It gave me something to talk about. It gave me something to create. It gave me something to leverage for my database, for my follow up. So events, I really started leaning into doing events. Not so much the first time home buyer. I did a lot of investor seminars. So, but who am I to know about investing? I'm like brand new in the business, didn't know stuff. So instead, what I did was I set up a power of sale tour. So I would set up on every Sunday, we would meet up at our brokerage, and then we would drive around, and I would pre-book duplexes, triplexes, fix and flips, and power of sales. And as a group, we would just go look at all these properties together, then come back to the office and just chat about the market and what they like. And the first one I ever did, I sold a house, and I was like,
really.
"Oh, damn, this is yeah, this is awesome. I got to do more of this." And then the second, third, and fourth one I didn't sell a house, but I gained a lot of leads from it, which did turn into deals later on down the road.
Right.
But events was a big thing. Like I started doing before I started doing coaching, I started doing seminars at brokerages within the Toronto area, just because I wanted to be known as the Oshawa guy. So I figured if I can get in front of all these real estate agents, like within a 45-minute window of where Oshawa is, and just so I started with the franchises. So I did all of the Keller Williams offices is what I started with. So I did one for free, and I didn't charge. I didn't upsell. I didn't like collect their information. I literally just went and shared my knowledge and was trying to like get my name out in front of all the agents. So I did the one brokerage, and then I told that manager, I'm like, look, you got to call and get me hooked up with three more. And he did. And then when I did those other three, I did the same thing. I'm like, look, I didn't charge you, I didn't charge your agents, but you got to hook me up with at least three more managers that would get me on stage. And so I did that, and it snowballed into like over the course of a year, I did like 300 talks,
Wow.
and I didn't charge for it. I didn't do anything, but it built a big name for me at the time. And then that's how my coaching career started, was because it was by default. Because when you do 300 talks, there's an audience, and all those people in the room are like, oh, that's great, but can you just do it for me? Or can you help me? And so then coaching became a thing. So I was doing that right up until about 2012, and then there was a tipping point where I had one foot in the real estate boat and one foot in the coaching boat. And I just decided in 2012 to go all in on coaching. So I don't sell real estate anymore. Um, I'm not opposed to it. It's just I have a remote business that serves me well. I just help people in another capacity. That's all.
Yeah. Well, like I said, sort of in the intro, is that you like to tinker. You like to sort of you have a lot of interest, and you like to fiddle with things and see how they work, and that kind of method for generating leads, or that, or follow up, or
Yeah, a story of a classroom, and they cut the classroom in half, and let's say there's 100 students. 50, the right side of the room, or is that your left? Whatever, my right. The right side of the room had 50 students, and the teacher said, "Okay, you have to create a video, and you are fully graded on the one single video that you make. So you have to make the best video that you can." Then the other side of the room was graded on the quantity of videos. And so they had to make as many videos as they can. Well, the room that had did it based on quantity, not only did they make more videos, but their videos were better because they failed forward and they got their system and they had the practice. Whereas these people, it was all like conceptual, and then they had one take to try and make it right. Whereas these guys, they failed. And along the failing journey, you pick up little pieces of like, oh, I
right.
could do that better this way. And so I'm all about that with everything I do. Um, Internet leads like was the early days, because like I say, none of my friends and family were buying real estate from me because I was so young. So I focused on the internet, and like, why would I get ahead on the internet when there's so many other real estate agents that are already on the internet? So I got really creative with my marketing. I tried like, okay, all the other real estate agents in Oshawa are focusing on the term Oshawa real estate for sale, Oshawa real estate, Oshawa homes, that type of keyword. So I said, forget it. Everybody's going after that. I'm going to go for the rest of Canada that search relocating to Oshawa, moving to Oshawa, and I excluded Durham region from seeing those ads.
Mm.
And now I got the rest of the country, and maybe there's like 5 people a month that are relocating or whatever. So I found I was going for smaller niche things. So that one worked out well. And then open houses, I started doing a lot of internet marketing based around open houses, not because I wanted to do the open house, but because of all the people that are online filling in forms looking at real estate. The people that are looking at open houses, they're hopping into a car this weekend.
They're
So
closer to making
why?
something happen.
Yeah, they're way closer. They're actually hopping in a car this weekend. So if I had a limited marketing budget, why would I go after all the people searching real estate for sale when I could target the people that I know are hopping in a car this weekend? So I put all my money into open house marketing. My website was, the URL was actually openhousetour.com. It doesn't exist anymore, but back then that's what I called it.
Right.
And yeah, it just worked out really well. You gotta fail forward. Always be tinkering. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. When you're in real estate, we got to wear so many hats and you got to try so many things. It's like almost maddening. I could see how this game would really be a grind for some people, especially if they're not comfortable with failure. Because you really got to like put yourself out there and try different things that are beyond your means. Like we're not all good at all things. Like I'm not good at the paperwork. I found that out on
Day
month
one.
one. Yeah. Whoops. And so other people aren't good at video. It doesn't matter. Just do what you're good at. An analogy for you. I'm really good at video games. Nerdy. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but anyways, I'm really good at video games, and I'm playing this video game with this kid, and let's just say it's baseball. Okay, so we're playing baseball, and if you put the red jersey on, it makes your player run faster, but if you put the blue jersey on, it makes them hit the ball harder. And the kid I was playing with wanted his player to be a faster runner, but the player was actually a good hitter. So why not put the blue jersey to make him like just that much more efficient at the one skill set that he's good at? So the point of the story is don't focus on what you're bad at and try and become better. Focus on what you're good at and double down. Maybe you are really good at prospecting and talk to people on the phone. Or most people are probably better at serving their friends, family, their referral database, that sort of thing. Others are really good with social media and creating. I had a coaching client 2 weeks ago. She thought she needed social media. Like she came to me because she wanted like to get better at social media, and I coached her out of it because she's not good at it. She's not good at creating it. She spends so much time. It's just a waste of everything for her. So I said, look, instead of spending an hour a day and trying to create one post that isn't getting you anything, why don't you just spend 20 minutes a day and comment on 5 people's posts and private message 5 people? Just do 5 and 5, 5 and 5, whatever. Maybe it takes you 20 minutes a day. So fast forward a week later, and she's not only saving time because it's not an hour a day, it's 20 minutes a day, and she's got all these conversations started. She hasn't created a single social media post because I'm like, that's not your strength. You've got like 20 different fonts, and like it was the ugliest marketing I've ever seen. I'm like, of course nobody's interacting with it. And I wasn't putting her down. I was bringing the reality of it of like, look, I'm gonna give you a release. I'm going to release some pressure from you right now. You don't have to do this just because you think you do. Like a lot of people feel like they have to do video. I see a lot of power in video. I've been pushing video. I'm a huge champion of you should be using video. But does that mean all people? Hell no. Not all people have to be using video. And
Danny, you should have
so,
told me this before I hopped on YouTube, buddy.
right? But no, see, it worked out for you.
Yeah. No, well, like you said, everyone has to find their lane, right? And we all have different ways of doing business, and you don't really know until you try certain things. So it's good to try certain things, but you really do have to commit for a certain length of time and understand there are processes and follow in the success of others to sort of create a shortcut for your own self and find out, is that your lane or not? You don't know until you give it a real chance and you're doing it the right way.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've gone through kind of the history, if you will, and now where are you at right now in your business? I mean, you've kind of created a lifestyle or created your business around your lifestyle that you wanted, right? I mean, you wanted to be free to be kind of able to travel and do what you want to do and serve people the way that you want to serve them, while you're doing that. So give people a little glimpse into what that looks like and how you're helping people grow their business.
Yeah. So I yeah, two in 2017 I hit the road full time. This is a motorhome. This is a actually I'll show you my little portable studio. So I got two lights. This holds my phone. This holds my iPad. This little friction arm. I don't need it with our call. And then this is a motorhome, and I back
Beauty.
onto a provincial park. And so yeah, every month move to a new city. I kind of chase the sun, and I'll do like um, what is it? 7 months in Canada, 5 months in the States every year, and I just kind of keep rolling. Except for with COVID, we've been kind of stuck here. I didn't want to cross the border and go south this winter, so we're going to hang tight for another year here in British Columbia, and then start going back coast to coast. It it all kind of started when I was still in real estate. I forget what year it was. I feel like it was like 2014 or something, 2013. I was leaving my office. I was locking the door because, again, I'm the last to leave. And there's a baby robin in the parking lot. And it was like 11 o'clock at night and nobody was around. And there was a cat. I'm like, this guy's fucked. So I got to get this bird. So I go get the robin and I got a Staples box and I put him in the Staples box from my office, and I go home and I never went back to my office ever again after that day. So I bring this robin home, and every morning I would dig worms up at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. I'd show him how to dig worms, and we would get worms together every day. And then eventually he started flying, and yeah, he lived with us for an entire summer, and he'd sit on me while I was reading and stuff. I could call him. I named him Tony Robbins, so you could just yell Tony Robbins, and this bird would fly on you. And so I never went back to my office after that day. That summer, I lived with the bird and I in my backyard while I worked, and I liked it so much. I'm like, oh man, I want to save the. I forget what I was paying. I think it was like 1,200 a month for the rent. We had a big office,
Yeah.
and so anyways, I saved that money, and then I just started working fully from home, and I liked it. And then yeah, hit the road.
Hit the road and you're off. All right. So tell people a little bit about kind of what you're doing to help agents build their business, because you've got your fingers in a couple different pies. So why don't you
Oh yeah, okay, a big
what it
one.
is that you do?
So most people come to me for the magic bullet. They're like, "Oh, Dan, I want internet leads." That's what they think the magic bullet is, and truthfully, that's not the answer for many. And I tell them that when I'm on the phone with them. But I still do that. So I do done for you marketing. So we do Google ads for people. We do Facebook ads for people. One that I'm really excited about is an accountability program where I didn't know this about the App Store, but there's two versions of the App Store. There's the public app store where you and I download Facebook and Instagram, and then there's a private app store where like Rogers and Bell or Amazon have apps for their employees. So I put an app on the private store, and I've got 35 people now that are using it. I just launched this, and I'm really excited about that. My goal was 30, so I already hit my goal. And it all started because a company called me up and they're like, "We're looking for a coach that has a niche and creates content, and we're going to build an app for you." And I fit the bill because I am most coaches are a niche. There's like a golf coach, that's a niche, a diet coach, niche, real estate coach, niche. The difference is that most coaches do not create content, and whereas I do. So I fit their bill until I saw what they wanted, which was their bill. They wanted 7,000 US to start. Then they wanted another 5,000 to like keep working, and then 50% of every sale going forward. I'm like,
Wow.
whoa, yeah, wow, eh? So then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to try and hack something together myself, and I did, and I'm super pumped about it.
Perfect.
So what it does is it gamifies your day. So every okay, I'm going to backtrack. When I was working in construction 16 hours a day, we
Mhm.
had a clipboard, and I had to hold myself accountable every hour. I had to write down what I was doing and then hand in this timesheet. They called it pricing sheets so that they could price jobs. I call it a timesheet because they were really just tracking our time. And so I would hand in the timesheet, and I found it so funny that I was willing to not only work 16 hours a day for somebody else and hold myself accountable to that time of what I was doing. But then when I became self-employed, I really never documented my time. I didn't hold myself to a timesheet system. I know I was the first in and last to leave. I know I was putting in the grind, but anyways, it's when you're self-employed, you really don't hold yourself to the same standards as if you worked for Starbucks. You know what I mean? You'd show up even when you don't want to. But when you're in real estate, you can kind of not show up when you don't have to, type of deal.
Right.
So I went through an exercise where I journaled from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day what I was doing. And then I graded myself. And it was a very degrading experience because I realized I'm a straight D average. I'm like, oh man, I'm really not putting in the effort that I thought I was. So then I shifted gears and I started writing out all of my negatives because I went through a little bit of a funk in 2020 when COVID hit. My public speaking, obviously, that kind of dried up because there was no events, right?
Right.
And then I injured myself big time where I couldn't run or bike anymore, and that's very important to me. So because I wasn't running and biking, I wasn't exercising. Then I was like staying up later and eating junkier foods, and then it was ruining the next morning. And it was just like a vicious cycle of adding these weird little negatives that snowballed into a bigger deal where I don't know, I was like I just totally the wind was deflated out of my sails. For a
Right.
good 8 to 12 months, I just was on autopilot, didn't try, didn't care, just coasting because I have a lot of reoccurring revenue. Like when you my whole business is reoccurring. So I really don't have to show up and go to work if I don't want to. And at the first summer, that was like a really cool vacation. I'm like, oh yeah, young guy retired. But I wasn't retired. I was just like coasting. And so I did that exercise of writing out what are all my negatives. Like one negative was I was starting my day later and later and later. Okay, that's a negative to me. I was drinking more and more coffee. Not a negative to some, but to me, I was drinking more and more of it. And I found like it would make me not run, and then it would make me stay up later. And the cup is staining, so is it not staining my teeth? Maybe, and all these things. And then playing video games, like I don't, I could care less about a TV. I never turn the TV on. If I do, it's because I'm going to play a video game because to me it's fun, creating, and challenging. So then I'm like, well, that's also a negative because I'm spending my time doing this when I could be doing other things. So I wrote out all my negatives and I tried to transform them into a positive. So the sleeping in thing, I said, okay, I'm going to set my alarm 2 hours earlier. And in order to help me win this battle, I'm going to charge my phone in another room down the hallway so that I actually have to physically get up out of my room to go turn off the alarm, and it has all of my clothes and everything ready for whatever I'm up to already with it. And to double down on that, like I told my dad at that time every day I'm going to FaceTime him. And it's that's the trick.
The
It
accountability.
is yeah, the accountability. It was the having him he would call me or text me if I was like 5 minutes late on that call. And now we just do it every day. And I've never turned around and gone back to the bedroom. And that added 2 hours a day to my day, which was awesome. And then the video game thing. So say I block off 4 hours a day from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Remember that tracking my time thing from 8 to 5? That's nuts. Like nobody logically is ever going to do that. But I do it for 4 hours a day. So for 4 hours of every day, I'm hyper committed and focused on what I should be doing. I'm either building something, creating something. It's not the busybody work. The busybody work of answering emails, phone calls, and all that other stuff. To me, that all happens after 12 o'clock.
Right.
From 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, I'm building, I'm making video, I'm doing the things that kind of get pushed off to the side.
Okay, wait.
So,
I'm just going to pause you there for 1 second because that's something that everybody could and should implement in their own business, no matter what it is. Those morning hours when you're first up are usually the most productive. So
yeah,
everyone take a note. That's 100% true. In the afternoon can be the busybody stuff, like you said. But you get the important stuff out of the way in the morning, and then you're good to go with flexibility for the rest of the day. Okay, continue.
if it's not in your phone as an appointment, it doesn't exist. So I actually block it off. It's a real appointment in my phone every day. And so to like the video game thing. If I mess up the 4 hour window in the morning, then I'm not allowed to play video games at night unless I'm in the penalty box. So for 45 minutes, I have to clean something, fix something, or create something. So the last time I was in the penalty box, I cleaned these windows. There's 15 windows in this room, and those ones I haven't touched yet. But it's a reward system. Like, why should I? Oh, this is Bill Murray. Why should I play video games or watch TV or whatever you do, scroll through TikTok and Facebook or whatever people do? Like, why should we do that? Why should we double down on the negative? If we know we already fudged up in the morning, why are you rewarding yourself in the evening?
Right.
Like, oh, I didn't go for my run, so I'm going to eat more candy. It's like stupid, right? So try not to double down on your negatives. Try and take a negative, turn it into a positive, and then double down on the positives. You know what I mean? That's like
Yeah.
a game. I'm basically just trying to gamify life. And that app that I created gamifies the life. So every day I have what's important to me of what I'm tracking. Like, um, I run 4 kilometers a day if it's not raining. If it is raining, I run 2 kilometers. Whether it's raining or not, I run. And I track that in the app. It's like a little tick of the box. The 4 hour window of my power block, tick of the box. I do a meditation thing with an animal, my dog or my cat. I do that every day. I even have a thing that I have to hug Becky for 30 seconds, like a long, non-verbal, extended 30-second hug every day. And it's easy for a couple when one goes to work and one leaves, you say goodbye to each other. We have lived and worked together for 20 years. So we're at the we each have our own lazy boy stage of our life. And so anyways, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this hug Becky for 30 seconds every day just as like a reminder. And so, anyways, everybody's game is different. So the app is custom made for each person. So one guy, he's farming, geographic farming, and he's tracking that he knocks 50 doors a day. So that's part of his game. And within this app, every Wednesday, I do a push notification and we do a live Zoom call. And it's an accountability group to hold you accountable to what you're supposed to be doing this week. Because every week, the seasons of our life change, the seasons of the season change, the market changes, your positioning, your priorities. Things are always like in ebbs and flows. So we always have to make micro adjustments. Like if you're a sailor out in a sailboat and you want to make it across the ocean, you're not going in a straight line. You're kind of like you got to pivot
Yeah.
and change the set of your sail to get to your destination. So every Wednesday we change the set of our sail, and then at the end of every month, because I can see what the people are tracking in the app, I can see if they're on pace with what they said that they're supposed to be doing, and if they're not, I call them out on it. So it's really cool. I'm really pumped about it. The conversations I'm having with people are way more deeper and meaningful. Whereas before it was like, oh, you need marketing, I got marketing. Like, oh, you need a hammer, here's a hammer. Like I have the product and service of what they needed, and that was great. But the
Right.
conversations are like now I'm having. It's almost like I'm a therapist. People are like, nobody knows what I'm telling you. You, my spouse, and my therapist are the only ones that know what I'm telling you right now. Like people are going way deeper with me, and that is a lot. That's I get a lot out of that.
It's
Like not
fulfilling.
just financially. Yeah, it's very fulfilling. So if you were to follow me in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, I believe that the app is going to be my biggest focus of what I push and promote because it's just so much more rewarding.
And to like you said, to dig deep in those relationships and really help people rather than on the surface. I mean, excuse me, compare that to other styles of coaching, even just in our industry in real estate. You go to these big coaching companies, you've got like a half an hour call every week or every other week that you're paying a tremendous amount of money for, and it's all very, very surface, most of the time, I would say. Would you agree?
Four of them are with other coaching companies and are paying 1,000 a month, and they're using this to keep themselves accountable to what they told their coach they were going to do. So yeah, because the coach, I'm not against it. I am a
No.
coach, so do your coaching however you do it. It is though you're right. It is kind of like theory based, conversational on the phone, and then you hang up, and it's like then you're back to your whatever your daily life was, and you don't really implement. A lot of people don't. So the big challenge is implementation for
But it's
sure.
also it's the relationship more that I was digging into, in that you really
Oh,
are getting to
right.
know people and on a very deep level and
Hmm.
connect with them personally and want them to succeed. You're there when you get involved with that level of accountability, I find you develop a deeper kind of relationship. Even the people that are reaching out to me when they're listening to these podcasts, I love the fact that people are calling me and emailing me and, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And it starts with a question about what do I do about this, but we just have a conversation. And I'm not a coach. Like I'm not coaching, I'm not charging. I'm just having conversations with people because I like helping people if I can. But we have an actual conversation about life and business, and it goes deeper than that. And what you're talking about on a regular basis with this app is, you're developing deeper relationships with these people rather than, like I said, most of these coaching things are very surface level. It's, did you do these numbers? Did you do that? Did you do this? Did you do that? Yes, no, I don't know. Well, you should try this. Okay, great. And it ends there. Some coaches are fantastic. I've coached with several different companies, and others are shit. Just like anything else in life, you get good lawyers, you get shit lawyers. Good real estate agents, shit real estate agents. But what you're talking about is more true and congruent to who you are as a person. You're a good dude, right? And you like people and you like seeing them succeed at life, not just hitting their numbers. And this way, you get to really get involved,
Yeah,
right?
definitely at life and not the numbers for sure. Yeah. Um, so it's all about like the domino effect. Like so many people get hung up on the future domino that you're not even going to knock that one over because you haven't knocked this one over yet. Like there's a girl, she's got a database. She's paying 1,200 a month for it or something. I don't even know what database costs
For
that
what?
much.
For
It
you
must
mean like a
include,
CRM?
yeah, but it must include marketing on top of that because that's a ridiculous price. Anyways, um, for years she's been paying and she hasn't logged into it. It was easier for her to pay and not acknowledge that she wasn't using it than it was to log in and figure out the next step. So I sat down with her and like we identified all of the obstacles and like what she wants out of it. And then I isolated what that next blind spot is of like all you have to do is focus on this over here. Don't even worry about all that other stuff we just talked about because that's future. This domino has to knock it over this one before that one, right? So we don't
Right.
even have to talk about that one. Let's talk about this one right here. This is your homework. This is what you should be doing, and come back to me in a week, and then we'll move it over to the next domino. And she's chipping away, and she's actually getting benefit from it. So it's cool.
Well, that is the benefit of coaching on a high level. Is if you're with somebody that can really break things down, see things from an outside perspective, from experience, not just from their own past business and current business, but the experience of seeing how it works for other people and what sort of has worked for them, and implement it and help them implement for themselves. This is your next step. Erase all this distraction. Forget the shiny object syndrome. Work on this first, and then we'll be able to get to that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's cool. So yeah, that's what I'm up to now. Is the coaching app is really what I'm pushing. Although I do done for you marketing, and if anybody's listening, I am going to be rolling out a 4-week database challenge, which is to help a real estate agent with cleaning up their list. Who are the people? Like so many people, so many real estate agents have a database that are full of holes. It's like missing information, half truths. You don't know who half the people are, and it's like I don't even want to call these people, right? So then they blame the database. They're like, oh, I hate top producer. I hate Bomb Bomb. I hate whatever. And they switch to something new. And it's like, oh, you hate Adidas. And now you switch to Nike. Guess what? It's still a shoe.
Yeah.
It's still going to fit the same way. And so, anyways, the 4-week database challenge, week one is to create a game plan of like, who are the people on your list and clean it up. So you get a clean list.
So
Then week
is it also
two,
how you identify them within your database? Because a lot of people, myself
yeah,
included, had a ton of trouble. Like, how do I separate this type of person from that person? How do I organize the list?
there's my rule. Okay, I'll tell you my 3 rules to working any database. Rule number one is that if you have a contact added to your database, they have to have a next call date assigned, whether it's next week, next month, or at a bare minimum next year. If it was a year or longer, I always put them to January 1st because then in the new year, January 1st, I've got like, oh, 80 people, fresh list, let's go. I'll probably get 6 out of this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if they're in your database, they have to have a next call date and it's never done. So say I call next year. Well, I don't tick it off as being done. I just move that needle forward. I'm like, oh, should I call in 6 months? Should I call in a year? And I just keep pushing the needle forward. So they have to have a next call date assigned because if they don't, then you won't call them. And then a year goes by, 2 years, 3 years, and you're like, oh, awkward. Right. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is to tag them effectively, or group them, or put them in a proper list. And I complicated it where I had my hot buyers and my cold buyers. And the challenge is buyers are liars. So what they were telling me was not the truth. And I had them on the wrong follow up plan.
Right.
And so I simplified it. And I'm like, look, either a person is a buyer or a seller, or both, a buyer, seller, and eventually they're going to become my sphere. So those were the three that I had. I removed the whole hot, cold, medium, warm stuff, and it was they're a buyer, they're a seller, or they're eventually going to become my sphere. And I did have other ones, like I had realtors, just a list of realtors, and like vendors, that sort of thing. But that's unique to me. Generally speaking, buyer, seller, sphere. Those are the three tags that you need. And then, oh, my third rule is that you have to have good notes. So in any database, there's a note section where you can make notes. Guess what, Lauren? Over the years that you and I have talked, I have a note section about you. I'm not being creepy. It's because I care. And it's because of when I talk with you in the future, I want to know what our past was, because I talk to so many people a day. It's hard for me to remember everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And
I stick out, but other than me, for everybody else, you might forget them, right?
yeah, right, exactly. And so you have to have good notes. So my rule in the notes section is the very first thing, the very first line up at the very top is called next call. Because remember, I always have a next call assigned. So if in my gut, I'm like, oh, I should call Lauren in 6 months. Well, I have a reason for that. Why did I pick the number six? Well, in my notes, I just note myself of like, oh, I'm calling Lauren in 6 months because blah, blah, blah. Well, when 6 months rolls around and I call you, and because it's 2022, nobody answers the phone, I'm like, oh, I'll call them again next week. So then I'll push it forward by a week. And I'll just keep pushing it forward until we connect.
Right.
And then after that conversation, I'll make a note again. So I just keep re editing that note about what the next call is about. And it makes my job so much easier because I don't have to think. I can just look at my list of who are all the people I got to call today. And there's the reason. It's super simple.
The
But if you
one
don't
thing,
have that, what?
yeah, I was just going to say the one thing that people have to do really is give in to their system. Give in, say, okay, I realize I can't remember everything. I shouldn't be expected to remember anything. That's not how our brains work, to hang on to everything. And to release all of that stress of having to worry about forgetting things, and open yourself up to creativity, you have to just give it into a system and to say, I'm going to live by this system. Everything's going into the system, and that's how it works, right?
Yeah, it is. Your database is the foundation of your business, or it
Absolutely.
should be. If it's not, then you probably could have a stronger business and you don't know it,
Hmm.
because it's not that much more money and it's definitely not any harder. It's easier than what you're currently doing. I'll tell you
Oh
that.
yeah, little notes everywhere, something written on a napkin somewhere. I mean, nobody, you can't keep track of that. Everyone's gone through that, I think, at some point in their business and realized that is not a functioning way of doing things. You realize things fell through the cracks. You missed so many opportunities that eventually you have to get organized.
I did have a system before I had a database. I did use a paper based system, and I'll just share this story in case others are like, oh, yeah, I'm old school and I want to do that too. I had just I called it an ad call sheet. And on this ad call sheet, it was kind of like if I worked at a pizza restaurant and you were ordering a delivery, and I was like, okay, extra cheese, pepperoni, pineapple, and I'm like ticking off the boxes of what you want.
Right.
So I had this ad call sheet, and it already had my qualifying questions written out so that I could just write the answer of like, are they working with a realtor? Are they financed? When do they want to work? When do they want to move by? Do they have a home that they need to sell? Those are like the top four questions at the top of the list. And then there is a buying section. So if they were buying, I already had Oshawa, Whitby, Pickering, Ajax, and Bowmanville written on the page, so I could just circle it. Because how many letters are in the word Bowmanville? Almost the whole alphabet. It's like it takes so long to write that bloody word out, just like Mississauga, right? And so I it was just like, okay, Bowmanville, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom. It's like tick, 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 tick. So I had this ad call sheet. And the other reason I like the paper is because when I'm on the phone with a person, it's like, oh, I have to log into a database, create new, and you're distracted. But with a piece of paper, I'm with you. I'm just jotting it down. And then after we hang up the phone, then I'll add it to a database. But anyways, this ad call sheet, the very first one that I did, at the top, I wrote number one, put it in a binder. The next one I did, number two, put it in the binder, page 1, page 2. So then eventually I had like 10 pages, 30 pages, 100 pages, 200 pages in a binder, and they were all page 1, 2, 3 in order, right? Well, on the cover of that binder, I had a calendar of the year. And so, say I'm like, okay, I got to call this guy who happens to be page 6, for example. So, page 6, I have to call him in 6 months. Well, on the calendar, it was just of the year. I just put on the 6th month the his number. So I would look at the month and I'd be like, okay, I gotta pull page 2, page 40, page 53. It was so easy. It really was easy. And that is something that people can still do. You don't need a database. I rocked it without a database, but eventually I wanted the database for the leverage so that I could effectively mass email people. Like an email I would send out to my database once a year in the spring was really clean text, no image, no graphics, no email signature, none of that. It just plain text said, "Hey, name," because it mail merged them. I would say, "Hey, Lauren, are you still thinking of moving this year?" That's it. One line. You
Yep.
do that to your whole database, how many people are going to respond? Not all of them, but the 6 that do are the 6 that matter, and you're good to go. And I would just reshake that tree once a year. Hey,
Yep.
name, are you still thinking of moving this year? It was
That's a great
awesome.
one. It's that Dean Jackson sort of mentality of keep it simple, really easy, and SMS messaging. A lot of databases they have that now. So sending that to a text message, super simple.
We're doing, and this is a service I can do for people if anybody likes this idea, where we record your voice. So I'll do you. So I'd be like, "Hey, it's Lauren here over at ABC Realty. I was hoping to connect with you in real time, but I guess I got your machine. So, anyways, I wanted to hear your voice. But when you hear mine, send me a text back or give me a call. What we're doing is we're updating everybody about the real estate market, like specifically in your neighborhood, what homes are going for and the pricing. Maybe if not you, who you might know others that are thinking of making a move this year. Also, I just want to chat with you in real time. So when you hear this, give me a call, give me a text. We'll talk later." Boom. Okay, so we record that, your voice. Then I take your database of all of the phone numbers and then we upload that. And what happens is it doesn't call it doesn't call them, they answer and then they hear the recording. Instead, they just see a missed call on their phone. They're like, "Oh shit, Lauren called." And then there's your voice message. Dude, I did that last week and I did it to a small list. It was 100 people. 70 no 30 of them didn't work because it was a landline or an office or something, but 70 of them were cell phones, and of the 70 that got my voice message, 50 of them called me back.
Yeah.
So imagine if you had like a client appreciation event or like some sort of seasonal promotion, like once a year you do a CMA for everybody in your database. That's such an easy button to press. But if you don't have that database, you can't leverage stuff like that.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to, the power of having people in one particular digital database that you can then manipulate and use and get in touch with people with. All right. So we've pretty much hit our time limit. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach you for coaching, for speaking engagements, or for this app? I mean, you tell people, how do they get a hold of you best and why?
The best is just texting me my cell number. My direct cell number is 905 903 5442. 905 903 5442. Just send me a text and say, "Hey, I heard you on the podcast. I want to chat a little more." And I'll give everybody a half-hour coaching call and we'll just free bag chat openly about whatever direction you want. It's not a sales pitch.
Awesome. And to everybody out there, you know, Danny's a great dude, a lot of experience with so many different facets of this business. So that would be a worthwhile offer to take him up on. You can also call me anytime, 416-890-5775. Always happy to chat with everybody listening, or reach out to me, Lauren at laurencooper.com. Danny, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with the audience today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you and everybody listening. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Like, share, and subscribe, everybody. We'll see you guys on the next episode.